Our next speaker hails from Atlanta, Georgia, and he's been a guest on Powder Keg before, and the conversation was so amazing, so rich, so dense that I wanted to bring him back on the show here for this very special Unvalley event. This person has done amazing things with his relatively short career, starting actually in tech, now transcending tech, although he does work for companies like Slack and Google and has helped sales teams perform there. And in this conversation, we talk about those same strategies that work in sales and how you can use them to accelerate your own career. So very interesting conversation with Morgan. He has been a LinkedIn top voice. I think the last 3 years, 2018, 2019, and 2020. He's got an incredible following. He's been featured in Forbes and HubSpot and Harvard Business Review. I've been following him for a long time, respect his work a lot, and we get into some great things in this conversation, including some of the strategies, the mindset, and the new tools for building your network and accelerating your career, no matter where you live. And this is a great conversation. Here's Morgan. Morgan, thanks for being here, man. I am super excited to talk to you. Where are you tuning in from today?
Yeah, so I'm not in Atlanta. I'm in Vancouver right now.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Here to see my girlfriend. So somehow I'm dating a Canadian. That's a whole nother story in itself. But yeah, I'm going to be here for the next couple of weeks spending time with her.
I like it, man. Vancouver, it has been a long time since I've been there, but they've got some cool stuff going on in the tech and startup ecosystem there as well.
They do. Yeah, there's a lot of awesome stuff that's happening. We're going to go in 2 weeks. We're going to go to Whistler, which is about 2 hours outside of Vancouver. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's just a really nice spot. I mean, it's got like snowboarding, skiing. I'm not doing any of that stuff, but I'm laying low, but I'm really looking forward to going there because I've heard amazing things about it.
Great, man. I'm glad to hear it. Well, I know you hail from Atlanta, also a great tech ecosystem there. We've got some other speakers on the Unvalley lineup, but I specifically reached out to you because you were just an incredible add to a virtual event we did earlier this year when we were talking specifically about the ins and outs of LinkedIn. I know that's something that specifically you are definitely an expert on. I've learned a ton just from following you and engaging in your comments on LinkedIn. But I also have just watched as you've grown your career over the last couple of years. Do you mind sharing just a little bit of your own journey with the Powder Keg audience? How did you get to what you're doing today with sales training?
Yeah, absolutely. So it wasn't just I rolled out of bed and it happened, right? Like there's steps, right? So where I first started out learning about career and sales and business all started at the University of Georgia. So I double majored with finance and sports management. And I'll tell you a little bit, a couple of stuff I did there. And the reason I did that double major was because I saw the movie Jerry Maguire, Show Me the Money. Like you got to see this movie before. And like that movie got me so fired up. There's always a movie that you watch. I don't know if you feel the same way, Matt, where you're like, I want to go do that.
Yeah, I don't know if I've maybe Free Willy. I think when I first saw Free Willy, I was like, I got to go free the orcas.
Right.
Got to go do that now.
There's always a movie and you're like, I want to go do that, right? Besides if it's not like, obviously like Star Wars or something like, we all wish we could do the cool Jedi and stuff. But like in reality, right, I wanted to go be a sports agent. So that's why I did those double majors. And as I went throughout my journey in college and I got towards the end, I realized that I didn't want to do that anymore. And also at the same time, they told me I had to go to law school and that was also not going to happen, right? So I had to take a step back and figure out what I wanted to do. So I ended up going, I think it was a couple months later in Atlanta, living back home with my parents, went to a local networking event because I was trying to learn from other people. And from that conversation I had with someone, they said, hey, you should go talk to this company, Terminus. They just got 7 million funding. And so what I ended up doing is finding the number for the VP of sales. I ended up calling her to be like, hey, like, I want to interview here, right? Like it was an awful cold call, right? But she was like, yeah, like come in, let's do it. And that's how I started out in my sales career as a SDR. Now, for context, for people who don't know what that is, a sales development rep is someone who makes cold calls or cold emails or LinkedIn prospecting to schedule net new meetings for pipeline for account executives, which are essentially the closers, so they can get revenue from there. So your whole role is every single day you are cold calling, emailing people, and that's all you do. You're doing no closing. So it's a very hard role mentally. And I learned a lot from that role. And the reason I was just able to make that call when I got out of college, and the reason I was able to be confident in it, is because in college I did a lot of informational interviews. So I would reach out to executives to try to figure out what was going on in their world in college before I went into the real world. So I had a little bit of a leg up because I got all these insider information conversations before I actually got into my job. And so that really helped me out a lot as well. So that's like the starting point.
How did you conduct those insider information interviews? I love that strategy of reaching out ahead of time, getting a little bit more info. That's definitely an above and beyond interview tactic. What did that look like? Just kind of breaking it down to brass tacks.
Yeah. So if we go back there's a book called How to Get Your Dream Job by Pete Leibman.
Ooh,
so
I haven't read that.
Yeah. If you haven't read it, you should. And there's two things that happen there. One is I always had a belief that you were just born into success and that you couldn't get it. Like you were just born in whatever you were born into, and then that's like your life and you just do whatever. I didn't know that there was information you could go get to the next level. I just didn't know that growing up. And so what ended up happening is in that book, it gave you templates. It was a very tactical book. It was like, reach out for informational interviews while you're in college because you have leverage. Like you're a college student. So you're just saying, hey, I just want some advice, right? So you have the leverage as a college student and you have the time that you don't have when you start a job. So it has a whole template of like, hey, all I'm looking for is 15 minutes of your time. And that's kind of where I got 15 minutes for when prospecting. But and I don't use 15 minutes anymore. But at the time, it was a whole template, 15 minutes to have an informational interview. And what I did is I just Googled informational interview questions, and I had like 5 to 8 questions I would ask. Sometimes though, the conversation would go so different that I wouldn't need them, but those are my 5 to 8 just in case. And then I ran them. And then I was super fortunate where I was able to go downtown Atlanta to meet people. So then ended up being like hour conversations. And I had like tours of like these offices that like I had no business being in. But it was an incredible opportunity. And I still keep in touch with some of those people that I reached out to that are executives and helped me out a lot along the way to not make me feel as nervous. And I got a lot of my confidence from talking to them because I remember the first time I went to Fox Sports South and I went to go talk to the GM. Like I was so nervous, man. I was like sweating and he was like, yo, why are you sweating? And I'm like, I'm just nervous. He's like, there's no need to be nervous. I'm a normal person. And so like, we just went back and forth for like an hour. And then that made me feel more comfortable talking to executives moving forward because I was able to just have that conversation with him. But yeah, that's how, to put all in a nutshell, like that's how I started out. And then number 2 is in that book, Pete Leibman had his number at the end, and I called him. He was like, yeah, you're like one of the few people who actually called me.
Wow.
It was his number.
That's crazy.
And we talked for like 45 minutes.
That's awesome.
The funny thing about that though, is he was like, I told him I wanted to go be a speaker. And he was like, you need to go figure out what you need to go speak on. So it's like full circle because it's funny now because like I do sales training and do public speaking. Yeah. And I had no idea what it was going to look like. And he was like, you need to figure that out.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's awesome that you kind of ran into those pivotal sort of mentors so early on in the journey that kind of helped get you on that right path.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, Pete, but also that person that that executive you sat down with and put you at ease and gave you that at bat where you were able to connect with the ball, so to speak.
Yeah.
And once you did it once, you knew you could do it again. That's great advice. And I think just kind of sharing that help a lot of people who maybe have nerves in their conversations.
Yeah.
If they are interviewing for a job and they need to kind of get their nerves in check, what would you tell them as someone who's talked to a lot of people who are in much tougher conversations, right? Where you're cold calling people who aren't necessarily even planning on talking to you.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people to kind of calm their nerves and what sort of state of mind to be in for those conversations?
Yeah, I do. So it goes right into the next part of the journey here. So for the first 3 months when I was an SDR, I wasn't good at all. Like I was really bad. And so I just couldn't find what my system or process or my formula was. And I relied so heavily on what my knowledge of around social selling was, but I didn't rely it on like email writing and cold calling. Like I just like, neglected it because I was like, I don't really need it, which at the end of the day, looking back on it, made no sense why I thought that. And so what I will tell you is how I got comfortable cold calling and how I suggest other people get comfortable cold calling and how they get results is that it's all about what should you be doing before you make the call. It's not during the call, it's before, and a lot of that matters. And here's a couple things you can be doing. One is you need to have some type of song before you get into your cold calling. Now, here, this is the reason for this. This isn't random. It's not saying, hey guys, let's go rage. It's like, no, there's a reason on why I'm telling you to go play music. So I don't know how many people in here have played sports or listening in, but the sport I'm going to lean on is baseball. So if you play baseball or watch baseball, you know what I'm about to talk about. So before they get up to the plate, they have a song, a walk-up song.
Yep.
That song's goal is to get your mind to be like, all right, I'm coming up to bat. It's my time. So you need to do the same thing with cold calling to be like, hey, it's my time to call. Let me get focused. Let me get locked in. So you need to figure out what that song is. Again, I'm not going to tell you what song to pick. That's up to you. But
what's your song?
Oh, so my song is right. Actually, it changes, right? Because I could pick different songs, but right now It's Travis Scott, Stargazing. Like that's my song. Like that's my okay. Like I need to get focused.
Love it.
It used to be for a really long time. Meek Mill, Dreams and Nightmares. So that, I mean, like, that's just like classic, right? But the thing is like, now I'm like Travis Scott, but the thing is like, I know when to change it based on how I'm feeling or whatever. And you got to figure that out as well. And I would say number 2 is you have to also realize that these people that you're calling are not going to come after you. They're not going to be like, oh, Matt, that call sucked. And they're going to fly to your office. Right, and be like, yo, and they're gonna make fun of you. That's just not gonna happen, right? So I always still tell people before you make a call, like realize that like no one's gonna remember you after 5 seconds, as long as you didn't say anything crazy, right?
Yeah.
If you just did your normal talk track like you should be, they're gonna forget you in 5 seconds and move on with their day. Right. So like once I adopted my mindset, I was like, this doesn't really matter. Like we're overthinking it. And I would say number 3 is just studying and knowing your personas. Like the more you're able to talk about your buyers and know the case studies and the stories, it's going to make you more successful. And then that's what I did. I mean, for the first year as an SDR, that's what I started getting better at. And so I'm very comfortable in those conversations. And I even created to go into the story though, I created a YouTube channel called the SDR Chronicles that documented my journey and talked about these things we're talking about right now so that people could feel more comfortable in their roles.
I love that. And I think it applies well beyond sales too. I mean, even just thinking about CEOs understanding the VC that they're talking to while raising money, or that executive looking to land that next big career move at a company that they're having a conversation with, knowing that persona, understanding how you want that conversation to go, what you want to get out of it ahead of time. Those are 3 really great points. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And to round it all out, right? Because you said, how do we get to the sales trainer part? So once I became the SDR manager, I got promoted after a year. I had 13 reps that I managed, which by the way, if you're a manager, like I would say the cap is 8. Like once you go past 8, it becomes incredibly difficult. I'm just gonna let you know, like I'm not 13, like 13, I was like, this is a lot of people. So that's just a side note. And then once I was able to be successful in that role, I was there for a year. I got approached by John Barrows, which if you haven't heard of him before, he's done sales training for the past 12 years. And he's trained companies as big as Salesforce, Slack, Google, all those people, all the way down to startups that are just starting. And so he approached me to come in and be a trainer. I had no intentions of ever being a sales trainer. It was not on my radar, but the way he staged it to me made sense. He was like, hey, you have to actively prospect, actively sell, and do the training. I wanted to learn more about selling and getting better at that skill set. So I was like, absolutely, let's do it. And also have someone who's been doing this for a while to be as a mentor. And also we've grown to be friends at this point as well. So that's how I got into this sales training, sales coaching world. And I've been doing that for the past 3 years. So I've trained Glassdoor, Snowflake. You guys probably saw that IPO recently. I got into there. Also Google, I've trained them. Slack, Salesforce, Mindbody, all those different type of organizations.
And I'd love to dive in a little bit on some of the lessons learned on sales, even for those that are not in sales who are watching this. I think there's a lot to be learned about how those gigantic tech companies do sales well, and probably a lot to be learned, not just from what they do well, and you don't have to drop names, but also what they don't do well. I'm curious to know, what are some of the biggest mistakes that companies make when kind of building their own network of customers and prospects?
And so when you say building a network of prospects, is that more so like reaching out cold? Is that like asking for referrals? Because there could be different routes on that.
I think both. Honestly, I'm interested to know what you see isn't working right now. Where do you see people putting effort that is just not panning out?
That makes sense. So, I mean, number one, I've been talking about this a lot lately, and it's been really hitting home with people I've been talking to, and I want to talk about this here, is that consistent execution. And I believe that there's execution, right? Which is like, you're going to go do X thing based on whatever you've been given, right? A formula or a process or system. But where people make mistakes is they don't do it consistently. Mm-hmm. They do it like 2 days and then like, oh yeah, I feel good about it. And then it's like, okay, but what about the rest of the year, right? What about for the next 5 years, right? So it's consistent execution. I feel like that's a huge mistake. Number two is the connect and pitch. That's a massive mistake, is that you connect with someone, you copy and paste a huge novel, and it's not relevant at all. When there's LinkedIn voice messages, there's a videos that you can do. Like, there's ways that you can stand out and not just send someone a whole block of text, right? Like, come with a relevant reason on why you want to reach out. Again, for context, that could be something you saw on the website, something you saw on their LinkedIn, something you saw on Twitter. Like, I don't know, but the whole thing is that you have to come prepared with that information. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there and be like the other reps and make that mistakes when you're looking to connect with people. Just the connect and then immediately pitching someone is not going to be helpful. And I think number three, a mistake that people make, and it goes with number one, is that everyone's looking for a golden template or the magic formula on how to do this. And the thing is, like, across all organizations that I've worked with, and then also just with reps in general, like, there are going to be people who look for the silver bullet and the magic formula. And the thing is, like, there is not one. There is no golden template that's out there that's going to help you convert. At the end of the day, a lot of it has to do with, do you have a formula? And then are you going to be willing to put in the work, right? For number one, consistently to see results. Those are three things right off the bat that I see that lead into people not converting the way they need to convert. Because a lot of it has to do with consistency. A lot of it has to do with, hey, are you being relevant and personalized and really standing out? Because if you're doing what everyone else is doing, then it's going to end up being where you're going to be like everyone else and not get the engagement you're looking for.
I really like that approach. That idea of consistent effort and having a system beats the latest quote unquote growth hack or template or silver bullet, which, of course, to all of us as humans is enticing. You know, we all take our multivitamin hoping it negates everything else that we put in our body the rest of the day.
Right.
What are some of those formulas that you have seen work really well that people might try out for a period of time? Or is there one formula that you prescribe to everyone to start out with when that comes to building their network?
Yeah, so there's a couple of formulas here. If you are listening and you've heard of me before, you know I'm a huge formula person. So I would get your notepad out and write these out, because like I got a couple. All right, so let's talk about building your network. There's a lot of ways of doing this, right? So number one is, this actually goes back to what mistakes I see, because this is critical, is that please stop doing this if you're doing it, because it's not going to work. Is tagging everyone in your post. I'm going to let you know right now, if I see 3 or more people are tagged in a post and I'm part of it, I will not engage, because I know you're just tagging me in it to get a like and a comment to boost up your post. And even if it is relevant to me, I won't respond. That's just me, because I get so many of them. I'm just like, yeah, okay. Unless you're like, hey, Morgan did this, right? And you tag me, that's relevant. So that's actually my one thing there, is that there is a formula to posting consistently and being successful. 80% of it should be focused on pure value, right? Tips, tactics, strategies, whatever that is, right? And it's free value. And don't worry about, oh, this is free, like that doesn't matter. The whole thing is that like most people don't execute on the free stuff that's out there anyways, because if we did, all of us would have six packs and our skin would be glowing, because there are videos around that. But the thing is, we just don't execute. So don't worry about that. 80% is pure value. 10% is focused on shout outs in the beginning, right? This has adjusted for me, and it's a little bit different the way I do it now, but shout outs. That's like showing love to people. Hey, and this would make people extremely fired up because it doesn't happen. Hey, I listened to your podcast episode last week. One thing you talked about is starting to go to bed at 10 o'clock. I've been doing it for the past 2 weeks, and it's been incredibly helpful for me. Thanks so much for that episode. Matt, do you know how many people don't do what I just said?
99.999%.
People are always looking like, how do I get someone's attention? If you listen to this, right, and you took one bit of this and you posted that and tagged me, I'm going to be responding faster than lightning. And I'll probably proactively reach out to you and be like, that's awesome, right? And now we can build a relationship. But here's the thing. Most people don't do the advice that's in a podcast. They just
Why do you think that is?
Because we live in a culture of feeling good instead of doing what's going to be good for us in the future.
Are there mental tricks that you've used to get yourself to execute? You hear something great, you know it's a good idea because it's coming from a trusted source and they talked about their results. What do you do in order to actually make something happen?
Yeah, so two things. One is I will write down 3 things. So it's funny. I just listened to a podcast today, right? And I wrote down 3 things that I really liked in it that I am going to do. And the thing is, but also what I do is I tell someone else that I'm going to do it. Hey, I listen to this podcast. I'm gonna try out these 3 things. So now, like, the thing is, like, I'm now accountable for that. So they're gonna follow up with me and be like, Morgan, did you do that? I don't want to be like, oh no, I didn't, like, because I'm gonna look silly, right? So I always tell somebody. It's either in a group text, it might be my girlfriend, it might be a friend, right? I don't know, but I'm gonna tell someone, yo, I'm gonna do this. Like, keep tabs on me. So now there's pressure on me to do it, and then I will go do it. The thing is that 3 is what I do there. And so
I love that.
I mean, that's an easy way to grow your network. I did that in the beginning, like that 10% of like giving shout outs to people, whether it's like, hey, this person's awesome, go follow them, or hey, like, I listened to your podcast and I did something, like that goes a long way because people remember that.
And so it's 80% give value, 10% shout outs. And then I interrupted you. What's the last 10%?
Yeah, no, you didn't. You want to dive a little bit deeper there. So 10% is like right hooks. So that's, hey, sign up for a webinar, sign up for my newsletter, right? Sign up for my text list, sign up for, I don't know, whatever you got, right? Here's my product, here's my service, case study, I don't know. But that's right hooking, because you don't want to just give out value and then you have no right hooks. Then like you're not doing anything. You got to drive people somewhere. You're not building a network for no reason. Like, you're looking for something, right? I'm going to give you free value all day long. I'm going to be part of the community, but like, there's probably other things that you want to send them to. So you got to make sure that you're adding that as part of your whole network strategy. So that's like number 1 in building a network.
What if someone says, well, I don't have a right hook. You know, right now I'm not looking for a job. I'm not in sales. Why might I want to build a network on LinkedIn, on Twitter, elsewhere?
So you're looking long term now, because you're building a reputation. Because think about it, right? COVID hit. There's a lot of people who wish they would have built a reputation because they got let go, and now what?
Yep.
So like this, you're building it for the long term. It's like you putting your money into savings, or you're putting your money in stocks or a 401k. Like, you're not going to get that money the next year, but when you're 40, when you're 50, right? So like, you're building this for the long term, and this is really just making sure you have the right equity in the marketplace. That's how you should think about it. So if you don't have a right hook, then take that 10% and then throw it into the support of the 20%, right? So 20% are just shout out, showing love. So you're showing love in the community, and people are going to see that, right? And obviously in the long term, I'm not expecting anything from these people, by the way. Like, I'm just showing love, but it could possibly turn into something in the future.
Absolutely.
So you don't need the right hooks. I'm just saying most people probably have something that they're right hooking to. If you think about it, you got something, but if you don't have it now, just put it in the shout out column.
Yeah, I love that. Any other formulas that you that are go-tos for you in terms of building your network?
We got another formula. So this is one of my favorite ones. And this is if you're looking to schedule meetings or, again, building your network in general, 10, 30, 10. And so what it stands for is 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 10 seconds. And the reason I'm saying 10, 30, 10 is this is the way to reach out to people, to spark conversations, and to get the ball rolling. I normally suggest people do this with videos, the LinkedIn video option, or a first degree connected, or a LinkedIn voice note option if you're first degree connected. But if you follow this, you'll notice that it's applicable for in-mails and also any type of touch you're looking to do on LinkedIn. And so what it stands for, to give you context, is the first 10 seconds is you're stating the reason on why you're reaching out. I bet if we look through Matt's inbox right now, there's a ton of people who don't even follow the first 10 seconds.
Sure.
It's just like, hey, I noticed that you're a founder and I want to chat. Or I know I noticed you have a ton of mutual connections. And it's like, okay, like that's not applicable at all because everyone else says that. So the first 10 seconds, you have to state the reason of why you're reaching out to them in the first place. And it could be a lot of different reasons, right? Maybe you saw someone that is the mutual connection, but you address them specifically, right, to get more into that. Or, right, another thing that you did is you saw something on the website, or you saw something on LinkedIn. They worked at a previous company, right? You see where I'm going with this. So like, that's a route that you can take any day, all day long, but you got to make sure that the first 10 seconds are standing out, because otherwise you're going to be sitting there being like, I don't really know. Then the 30 seconds is the value prop. So what are you offering them at the end of the day? Now, it could be from a seller standpoint where you're offering something. You could be a founder starting a new business and you're offering something. Or maybe you're looking to get a referral, right? And that's your 30 seconds there. The 30 seconds is essentially just the meat of this video, voice note, or written message, whatever you're doing. And then the last 10 seconds is the call to action. Now, from a seller standpoint, that's just going to be an interest call to action is what we call it. You don't want to go straight for the meeting instead of you want to ask for the interest. And so what I mean by that is you're going to ask, would you be open to learning more? Or are you curious to take a deeper dialogue on this topic? Those are things that you can start doing to spark the conversation, which again is looking for interest, not directly going for the meeting so people aren't aggressive towards you. If you're not doing those things, think about what your call to action is in building your network. Maybe you just want to simply connect with them to talk about their background in X area. Maybe they went to a college and you want to talk about that college. Or maybe they changed roles and it's a role that you're looking to change into as well. So I follow the 10-30-10, even if I'm not looking to schedule or sell somebody something at the end of the day. I mean, I don't really see it as really selling. I just really see this as starting a conversation. Hey, are you interested in starting a conversation around what I offer here, or starting a conversation around, hey, you're in this industry and I'm very curious about that? Like, I use the 10-30-10 for everything and how to build my network, not just I'm looking to schedule a meeting to talk about sales training.
And for people who don't have a quota, it's not part of their job to do this kind of outreach. I really love your analogy around treating it like savings account. It's your equity. Your reputation is your equity for your career. What do you recommend to those people who don't have a quota? This isn't part of their job, so to speak. How do you carve out time to do things like record personalized LinkedIn videos, to post something of value every day, or give a shout out to somebody every day? Do you have any strategies for that?
Yeah, so we could take a step back on this one. And this all comes down to how are you going to organize your time and making sure you're doing the right things. So this also goes back to a formula as well. And so this is just a simple one, and it's just green, yellow, and red. And so when you're looking at some of you guys are already doing this, which is awesome, but some of you may be like, what are you talking about? So I color code my calendar, and green, yellow, and red stand for something. Now, from a seller standpoint, I see green as a money-making activity. Like, I got to do these things in order to hit quota or whatever that is. But all you need to see green as I'm in motion to accomplish my goals. That's pretty much it. That's for everybody. Like, what do I need to do to accomplish goals? Like, that's what green means at the end of the day. Yellow is prepping for the green activities. So that could be listening to a podcast, reading a book, right? Internal meetings, like you're learning, right? Which we'll go into a point about to make and how you can do all this and make it part of your lifestyle. And then red is taking a break. Like, we have to take breaks as humans. We're not machines, right? We need a time to like relax, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever that is, right? So this goes back to my point. Like, Matt, how do you do all this? Like, how do you post, etc.? First off, you got to take a step back and figure out what is your goal in building a network. It may not be the same goal that I have or you have or whoever that is, right? So don't look at everyone else and be like, oh, they're posting 3 times a day, I got to do this. It's like, no, you could post once a week and still be fine. I mean, the percentage of people who post consistently on LinkedIn is very low. It's like 1 to 3% or something like that.
Right.
So if you're posting once a week, like you're in the 1 to 3% already. So just keep that in mind and don't stress yourself out about it. What I will tell you, and I got this from Tom Bilyeu, Impact Theory. I don't know if any of you guys read or watch the stuff that he has out there. And I'm going through his course right now. And one thing he talks about is what do you rely your status on? And he talks about how the majority of us rely our status around our careers, how much money we make, how many deals we've closed, how many people we know in our network, how many famous people that we talk to. Like, that's where we hold our status, and that can be crippling for us moving forward, right? So if you want to be great at networking in this platform, and again, this realization I had 2 weeks ago, and I was like, this makes all the sense in the world, and I was trending towards this, is that we have to be students and take our status and pride ourselves on being the best students we can be. And so the reason I say that is because imagine if you just did 2 to 5 personalized videos or voice notes a day to reach out to people in a network you're building, and you are genuinely curious, right? Not just like randomly curious, but you're genuinely curious about what people are doing in their lives, about a different industry, a different job title, where you're looking to go in your career, etc. And if you do that, let's just do 5 as an easy example, right? So that's 25 a week. That's 120. Yep, 120 a month. So let's say if half those people reply, that's 60 people who have now replied to you, and that's 60 possible conversations you can now have, and that's 60 new learnings you could have in a month, right? And that was just 5.
Right.
And everyone has time to do 5 videos or voice notes. Doesn't matter. You have the time. It's just you have to create the time. And is it a priority for you to truly build your network and build your reputation to have equity in the future? Because if it's not, that's fine, but it is doable. It's not something that's out of reach.
How long does it take you to do 5? How long would it take you to do 5 video messages through LinkedIn?
For me personally, for everyone's gonna be different. For me personally, it takes me like 10 minutes. I can knock out videos super fast because I've done so many. The thing is, for other people, it may take you an hour because you're very nervous about it. So I say, hey, go do the voice notes. Like, those are a lot easier to do. I can do five voice notes in 5 minutes. Like, I can be like, boom, boom, boom. Like, they're a lot quicker to do.
Yeah, that's great, man. I really appreciate all of this advice. And I think I could probably ask you another half hour of questions, but I want to leave people some opportunity to connect with one another. This topic is all about networking. So I want to encourage people here on Hop In to connect and learn from one another. And obviously, take Morgan up on his advice. Post one thing that you took away from this conversation. I know I will be doing that. I'll probably be doing that now when we're recording it. That way people will come and check it out when we go into this event, which you're all watching now live and in person, hopefully with hundreds of other people. Morgan, if there's one thing that you could leave people with in terms of how to approach their career, one mindset that you've used personally in your own career that you think would also serve them well, what would that one mindset be?
So the mindset is to be in a proactive feedback mindset. And so this is something I'm doing right now is 360 reviews. Matt, I don't know if you've ever done these before. So
Absolutely.
So you have. Okay. So some people may have not done this. So for context, all it means is that you proactively reach out to people that are, and this is what I'm doing, colleagues, loved ones. So that's like immediate family, or if you have a significant other or whatever that is, right? And then people that are close to you in terms of like close friends, and then like mentors and even mentees if you have them. And all you're doing is saying, hey, I just do 3 questions. I don't make this complicated because I've seen 360 reviews where there's like 50,000 questions and it gives me a headache. So all I want to do is like 3 questions. These are very simple questions to ask. And I actually have like 3 of them tomorrow. And all I do is I say, hey, what's something that I do really well or better than anyone else? And that could be multiple. They can give me multiple things. Then I say, hey, what's something that you think I should change or consider adjusting, right? Or remove. And then the third one is, what is a piece of advice outside of the 2 questions that I'm asking that I should take into consideration? That's it. And you can go an hour on those 3 questions because I've done it, because you can get really deep and understand why. Now, here's the thing. This sucks because at the beginning of the conversation, I'm like, be as honest and open with me as possible. If you hold back, I will be upset with you. And so I give people the permission to like go pretty hard if they want to. But I always start off with things to change or remove because I just want to get hit as hard as possible in the beginning. I don't want to have to like wait for that part where it's like, and what else should I? But no, I'm just like, okay, what should I be improving on? Get that in the beginning. And then the rest of it, like the next thing is like, okay, what am I doing really well? And then you can hear all the good stuff, right? So that right there, being a proactive feedback mindset is really key. I did it 5 years ago. I'm doing it again now. And that's what's helped me too. And I'll add an extra thing on this is that I did this when I first started creating content. For those of you looking to build your network, is people that like and comment your posts. You're not going to get a ton of likes and comments in the beginning, just like everyone else. So I always said, thanks for liking the content. What else should I be doing that can be helpful for you? And so like I just built a lot of context because I would reach out to people one by one. I can't do it today. There's not enough time. But the thing is, like, when I had those like 1 or 2 or 3 likes, I'd reach out to them and get their feedback.
I love that. I love that, Morgan. 2 really great pieces of advice, great mindsets. I really appreciate your time. If people want to find you, what's the best way to find you, get a hold of you, learn more about what you're doing?
Yep. So I'm looking to build other networks besides LinkedIn right now because I can't add any more people on LinkedIn. I told them to change it. I don't know what's going on. So I gotta tell them to go somewhere else. LinkedIn. It's like, until y'all change it. So
what's the limit on LinkedIn? Out of curiosity.
30K.
Wow.
30K connections. Yeah, I can't add anywhere else.
Yikes.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if they change it. But Instagram is where you can go find me. That's actually the best place. Ask me a question at Morgan J. Ingram. And then also, if you're into gaming or you've been on Twitch before, go follow me on Twitch at Morgan J. Ingram. I'm also doing a ton of stuff over there starting next year. I'm going to start streaming games and doing some different stuff.
Awesome. Morgan J. Ingram, Jay Barrows. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.